today we're getting into the science behind our screens. We're going to explore the pretty fascinating world of social shopping and break down what really makes us click, what makes us trust, and ultimately what makes us buy stuff online.
So let's just jump right in with a question for you. Think about the last time you bought something online. Whose opinion actually mattered more? Was it the flashy, professionally made ad from the company itself? Or was it a review from some random person you've never met and never will? The answer feels like it should be simple, but as we're about to see, it's way more complicated and honestly more surprising than you'd think.
And you got to remember, from the other side of that screen, every single online business is trying to figure this out. They are all desperate to grab our attention and, more importantly, earn our engagement. But let's be real. In this massive ocean of social media posts, ads, and reviews, what tools are the ones that genuinely connect with us? What actually changes our behavior? Well, that's what we're here to investigate. So let's try and piece this whole thing together, this social shopping puzzle. We're going to do that by unpacking a really interesting study that looked at the exact tools businesses are using to try and turn our social scrolling into actual shopping. Now, there's a name for this whole world. It's called social commerce, and it is literally what it sounds like. It's this powerful mashup of e-commerce, just buying stuff on the internet, and social media, the platforms where we all connect and share our lives. And this blend, it has completely revolutionized how we find and decide what to buy. The study we're digging into today really zeroes in on three main tools that companies use in social commerce. So for our little investigation here, let's call them our three main suspects, while we try to figure out what really makes us tick online.
Okay, suspect number one, recommendations and referrals. You know exactly what this is. It's when your friend posts about some new gadget they're obsessed with on their Instagram story, or when somebody sends you that special link with a sweet discount code. It feels direct, it's personal, and it's coming from someone you already know and presumably trust.
Next up, suspect number two, forums and communities. These are those dedicated corners of the internet where people who are into the same stuff all gather. We're talking about a Facebook group for fans of a specific makeup brand, or maybe a subreddit where thousands of people are debating the best kind of air fryer. It's all about that shared experience.
And then we have our third, and probably most familiar suspect, ratings and reviews. This is the classic system we see everywhere. The 5-star ratings, the endless user comments on almost every single product page. Now, this is probably the one we all think is the most important, but you might want to hold that thought. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The study suggests it's not enough for a business to just have these tools in place. Nope. First, these tools need to build something incredibly important. And that something is the most valuable currency on the internet, trust. Because without trust, we're not clicking, we're not giving up our info, and we are definitely not buying. So the whole idea here, the main theory the researchers had, is that there's a simple path. It goes like this. These social tools we just met, recommendations, forums, and reviews, they don't just magically work. The idea is that first they have to build our trust. And only after that trust is built does it lead to real, meaningful engagement. Things like spending more time on a website, interacting with the content, and of course, making a purchase. All right, so the investigation is over, the numbers have been crunched, and the verdict is in. And let me tell you, what the researchers found, well, it confirms some things we might have guessed, but it also throws a massive curveball, especially when it comes to our most common suspect, ratings and reviews. Okay, let's look at the evidence. In this first column, you can see that yes, all three of our suspects, recommendations, forums, and reviews, they all successfully build user trust. So check, check, and check. Great. But then you look at the second column, the one that measures if they directly lead to engagement. And that's where the story totally changes. Recommendations and forums, big green checks. They work. But ratings and reviews, a big fat red X. And yeah, this is the big shocker from the study. It turns out that even though they are literally everywhere, star ratings and customer reviews were found to have no significant direct effect on getting us to actually engage with a site.
I mean, sure, they build a little bit of trust, but that trust doesn't automatically turn into action like it does for the other two.
So why is that? Well, the researchers have a pretty powerful theory, and you can see it right here in this quote from their paper. Basically, in a world full of fake reviews, paid-off influencers, and all that noise, we've just gotten skeptical. Our brains see a 5-star rating, and a little voice in the back of our head goes, yeah, but is it real? That feeling, that lack of reliability, seems to be what breaks the chain between the trust they build and the engagement they're supposed to create. So, how much does trust really matter when it is working? Well, for recommendations and referrals, it's like a superpower. The study found that a huge chunk of their power, we're talking over 36%, doesn't come from the recommendation itself. It comes indirectly through the trust it creates. So yeah, they have a direct effect, but trust just amplifies it like crazy. And if you think that's wild, look at forums and communities. It's even more dramatic. Trust is the absolute superstar here. It accounts for more than 44% of the total effect on our engagement. This just goes to show that feeling of belonging, that shared knowledge you get from a community, it's a massive driver of trust, which then makes us way more likely to engage.
Okay, so we've seen the science, we've seen the surprising verdict. But what does this all actually mean for us? You know, for you and me, whether we're the ones shopping or the ones trying to run a business? Let's break down what we should take away from all this.
So what's the big lesson here? It's simple. Trust is the real engine powering social commerce. For all of us, as shoppers, it means realizing that a recommendation from a friend or a great conversation in a community forum has a much stronger, deeper pull than a simple star rating. And for businesses, the lesson is pretty clear. Stop just chasing star icons and start actually building a genuine community. Encourage real, authentic referrals. And hey, if you really want those reviews to matter, you have to prove they're reliable. Maybe by finding ways to get people to leave detailed, honest, high-quality feedback. And that pretty much wraps it up. We've seen that while we might glance at the stars, what really moves us, what really shapes our decisions, is connection and community. So the next time you're about to click that buy button, just take a second and ask yourself, what or who actually earned my trust here? That's all for this explainer.